Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celebrate Black Excellence. I'm your digital host, Carlton T. Clay. Our next guest is an actor, and you've seen him on Netflix's Sweet Magnolias. I present to you Frank Oakley III. How you doing today, Frank?
Doing pretty good. How you doing? Thanks
Doing
for
good,
having me.
man. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today. Definitely appreciate you. So let's get started with your career. How did you get started with acting?
I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a really long story, but I'll try to like condense it, kind of short.
Okay.
Essentially, it was something that, like when I was around maybe the age of 4 or 5, I kind of got that bug where I grew up watching like Keenan and Kel and all that, and seeing them doing that, it just was like, man, that looks like that's a lot of fun. I wish I can do that. But then time passes. Fast forward, I'm at my first college, Lincoln University, Missouri, and I was just like, man, am I really going to be content with majoring in broadcast journalism, because that's what I was majoring in at the time. And I reached out to one of my old teachers in high school, Miss Michelle Lee. And I was just like, man, I'm kind of thinking about this acting thing again. I really don't know much about it, but it's for whatever reason, it's kind of coming back to me. You got any advice? And she sent me a whole list of theater camps and school programs to apply for. Fast forward, I did all that. I got into a theater camp, the Perry Mansfield Performing Arts School and Camp in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, but couldn't afford the rest of it. So she helped me like sell like candy bars and just try to like garner some type of support. We got a little bit more funds, and then that quite wasn't enough. So it was one of those things where I was like, God, if this is what I'm supposed to do, you're gonna have to help me do it because I can't afford it otherwise. But if somehow I can afford it, I know that's what I'm supposed to do. And at that time, I was also transitioning to transfer back home in Kansas City to major in theater, because I was like, if I'm making this shift, I want to learn, from like ground zero of what acting is and all that stuff. So we fast forward a little bit, and I think maybe a week before I left for the camp, the rest of the money is funded, and I'm like, cool, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. And that was in 2011, and I've been on that acting journey since, because 2011 is when I started that. Then I transferred schools, and then I continued to pursue theater performance as my degree and graduated in 2014. But then I found out some years later that Miss Michelle Lee and Melinda McCrae, who was the head of the education department at UMKC,
Mhm.
they funded the rest of that, and I had no idea until years later. So I thought that was a beautiful thing as well, to find out like, man, like, you know, I feel like this is something that God is calling me to do, and this is confirmation, and then finding out that later. So yeah, that's the nutshell version. It's a lot longer of a story, but yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
Nice, nice. It's a beautiful thing, beautiful story. Because again, you have people that are looking out for you even when you don't know it. So that's all. That's a
Hmm.
testament, definitely for sure.
Hmm.
So let's get started with a couple of things you've been a part of. You've been a lot of mainstream series, including the 2021 version of The Wonder Years. Can you please tell us about your experience on that show?
It was amazing. That was my first time ever being on network television. And for anybody who's watching who may not know what that is, it's just anything that comes on television. So like your ABC, NBC, CBS, things like that. And that was my first time, being on network television. It was also my first time having, I think the episode is roughly like 20 something minutes, and I had like 10 minutes of screen time and dialogue. So
Okay.
that was like huge for me. But just working with everybody was really a blessing there. I would say the thing that I enjoyed the most during my time doing that was, I'm naturally a really silly, goofy dude. Most of the time when I'm playing roles, I'm playing, the serious, grounded, got it together kind of dude, which is fine. But I never get to be like comedic or silly or goofy. And this was the first time I got a chance to really lean into that side of myself more on camera. And yeah, it's really opened a lot of doors for me with my comfortability with that. And it was just a lot of fun. So I'm really glad that I got that opportunity.
Nice. And you also appeared on the Paramount Plus version of
Mhm.
the classic show, The Game. So yeah, we gotta talk about that. It's definitely a cultural phenomenon for sure. How was it being a part of that show?
That one, it went by so fast because I think it was only one day of work for me. I had a co-star role, which a few lines, nothing too crazy or anything like that. But I grew up watching the game. I think I was in like high school or middle school when the original series came out.
Hmm.
So that day of work, I got a chance to work with Hosea, who plays Malik, and Shannon Kane, who plays, I think her character's name is Shannon in the show as well. And she's like Malik's love interest in that particular season. And like, I don't really get starstruck or anything like that, but I was like, yo, that's him, that's Malik, so that was really cool to work back and forth with him. But I think, and Shannon as well. But I think the most impactful time during that process was actually afterwards, when I posted about it on social media. I remember Hosea commenting, because I said I do a series called I'm Gonna Be Frank, and it's just me like talking about different life experiences and things like that. And I just commented something along the lines of like, this was a quick in and out deal, but I was really, really fortunate enough to do it, and it was fun. And he commented on there and was just like, man, it is not easy to do co-star roles without trying to like stand out or feel like you're out of place, like you fit right in. And that was like, that's not an easy thing to do what you did. And I was just like, man, that was really dope for him to take the time out to, touch base with me and say something like that. So I thought that was really cool. That was really cool.
What was it
Yeah.
like for you when you got the call that you got the role? Because again, the game is such an iconic show. It's like you said, you grew up watching
Yeah.
it. A lot of us watch it. We still watch the repeats, of course, of the original series. What was it like for you when you got that call, like you got the part on the game?
I don't know. Like I'm somebody where it doesn't hit me until after the fact. Like when I first got, I was like, okay, cool. I got another like something to do. Cool. But like while I was there, and then shortly after I was leaving the studio, I was just like, yo, I was just like on the show working with Malik, and just in that, like, I don't want to like make it, like overly spiritual or anything, but it's just, I don't know, like the energy was just really cool to be like, I don't know. I feel like a kid in a candy store to be like, man, I'm on something that I used to watch and I used to like watching and have fun watching, and now I'm a part of that world, even for just the one episode. I don't know. It was just really cool to have that experience and to share that with some of my friends who watched the show, who knew about the show growing up like I did. I don't know, man. It was really, really cool to have that experience, and then the energy with it was just really cool. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you portray Harlan Bixby on Netflix's Sweet Magnolias. Now, for those who have never seen it, can you please tell us about the show and tell us about your character?
Yeah. So, Sweet Magnolias, it was started as a book series. I think it was written by Cheryl Woods, and they adapted it for Netflix. And I think the pitch that the showrunner Cheryl Anderson said is like, it's like Hallmark with teeth. So it follows these three women who grew up together. They kind of separated but came back together. And it's really a show about like redemption and family and community. And just like, it's the thing that I really love about the show is how it shows a lot of our brokenness as just people, and the power of community, and how when you have people to lean on to, and have people that support you, how you can change and become, better versions of yourself. So I know that sounds a little like, lofty or whatever, but that's really the heart of the show. It's a show that's all about redemption and reconciliation. So yeah. And it's a show like, the demographic is primarily women, but me, like, it's not a show that I would watch if I wasn't in it. But watching it outside of like, trying to pick apart my performance, like, I should have did that better or whatever. Outside of doing that, just enjoying it as a patron. It's a show that I would actually like watch for real, and I do, because it's the way the writers on the show, they write the characters so realistic and so well and so relatable that, yeah, you have your like, your heartstring moments, or, some people call it sappy moments, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like, no, they earn this moment because like it's the connection and the realness in the dialogue. So it's a show that it's a sleeper show for a lot of dudes specifically. So like, I would recommend, if you got your lady with you or whoever, check it out, and you might end up liking it more than her. You never know. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And can you tell us about your character on the series?
Yeah, so my character originally, I think he was only meant to be like in an episode or two. At the beginning of the series in season one, he's the assistant baseball coach. And by the time we get to season three, which was the season that's on Netflix right now, he gets promoted to head coach. And that was an attempt to try to keep this from not being so long-winded. That character, I think, is proof that a lot of my acting teachers and stuff have told me of like, no role is too big or too small. You treat a small role just like you would treat a big role, quote unquote. And you want to give it that integrity and that honor just because that's what you're supposed to do. But also when you do that, you never know what can happen from that. Like I again, I don't think my character was only supposed to be in but like 2 or 3 episodes, and here we are, just wrapped season 4, and I think my episode total out of all 4 seasons, I think I'm sitting at like 18 episodes. And with last season, season 3, episode 5, I believe, I'm not like the main part of that episode, but like my character is like a pinpoint in that episode. I have a lot of screen time in that. And again, it was only supposed to be like a 1 or 2 episode type of character. So I think that's really cool that that happened. And honestly, I owe a lot of that to one of my co-stars, Justin Bruning, who plays Cal in the show. He's the main baseball coach. And long story short, with him, I learned a lot working with him because he's someone who is a very calming presence. And on set, he taught me, because I'm the type of person at that time, that show was the biggest thing that I've ever done. And I was so nervous going in there because I'm like, all right, I got to be on it, not mess up all this kind of stuff. And, might fumble a line or might forget something. And he wouldn't be beating himself up about it. He's just like, laughing about it and just like, all right, keep going, stay locked in. And it was cool to see him be cool under pressure like that. So I learned from him doing that. But also, he's someone who he tried to position me a little bit to get more screen time just by simply like trying to put more attention on me as we're acting the scene together, which, that makes the director and the cinematographer be like, oh, wow, he's doing some cool stuff. Let's get some more stuff of what he's doing as well. And he didn't have to do that. He chose to do that just because he's a good dude, but also like he's respects the craft. So I hope I get to do that for somebody someday who's coming in, maybe got 1 or 2 lines, but I, want to give them a little bit more screen time if possible. That doesn't always work, but it did for me, and I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. Do you have a preference as far as when it comes to the stage or screen? Because I know some actors, they've done both, and I like the screen better, or I like being on stage better. Like, do you have a preference when it comes to that?
I will say from the very beginning, when I started my acting journey in 2011, I always knew that I wanted to do television and film, specifically movies. But if you ask me, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to always lean a little bit more towards film and television, but I still love theater just as much. But I think, if I was forced to make a decision, I'd be like, you can only do either theater or like television and film. I'm like, put me in somebody's movie, please. So yeah.
I hear you. Speaking of movies, you have an action sci-fi thriller that you are starring in called Rewind. Can you please tell us about that?
Yeah, so this movie is a really special movie to me. It's like a dream role for me. I tell everybody that like if I could pitch myself as an actor and only have one piece to do that, it would be this piece. It has everything that I love about acting. It has action, drama, comedy, stunts. I love all that stuff. And essentially, so I don't tangent too much because I get excited or whatever, but the film, it's essentially about this guy named Cole Webb, which is the character I play. And he has these special abilities where he can take past versions of himself or his consciousness and put him in past versions of himself, essentially kind of like rewind in time. And he's had these abilities ever since he was a kid. And he's used those abilities just to kind of do small heists, kind of like Robin Hood style, take it from the rich kind of thing. And where we meet him in the film, he is finally to a point in his life where he's like, I want to know more about my past. Like, how did I get these abilities? Where did these abilities come from? Why do I have them? What happened to my family? He's trying to answer all these questions. And so in the film, he reaches out to his sister, who she's the only person that knows about his abilities. And they put together like kind of like a ragtag team of misfits to like, do one last heist, so to speak. And it's to go find out where Cole came from in a sense, where his abilities, because there's a facility that, without giving away too much, there's a facility that has the answers to that. So they, kind of go charge that facility and try to get more answers. And I love how the director came up with like a simple little tagline. It's like rewrite the past, redefine the future. And that is like all of Cole's main motivation in that movie is like trying to rewrite the past and redefine the future for himself. So yeah, if I had to compare it to something, I would say it's kind of like the Netflix series Lupin with Omar Sy in it. if Omar Sy could like rewind time and like jump into past versions of himself and then kind of put a little bit of like Guardians of the Galaxy in there with like the team building, kind of thing and the stunts in action. Cause I'm a big, action nerd and stuff. So I love that stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how I would explain if I was to compare it to something else. It's kind of like a mixture of those two kind of pieces. So yeah.
Is the movie available for people to see? Or are y'all on the like festival circuit right now? Like what's the process with that?
So that's what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to get into film festivals and then eventually get distribution so it can be on streaming platforms so that people all over can enjoy it and watch it. So that's where a lot of our effort is going right now that the film is done, because we filmed it back here in 2022. And now we're just hard on the trails, just trying to, submit into different film festivals and just get it, in front of as many people as possible.
Gotcha. Understood. Well, we definitely wish you guys the best on that because we definitely. This sounds interesting. We definitely want to see it. So hopefully we get to see it in the near future for sure.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I want to say about it too, that I think is really unique about this project is like it's all filmed in Atlanta. Like when you see that Made in Georgia thing, like it truly is made in Georgia. Like everyone from the cast, the crew, top, bottom, front, back, head to tail, everybody's local. Everything was shot here. And it's a project that's 100% crowdfunded. So we started a crowdfunding campaign back here in 2022. And by the end, before we even filmed anything, we had over 100 people backing the film. And I don't know, I think that's really cool to see the impact and the power that community can have and like support can have. Because I believe we raised roughly 20K, which is a very, very a modest budget given with how ambitious we want to be with the film, but we definitely made it work. And yeah, it's just, I think that's really cool to see that many people rally behind something and someone and an idea to like get it made. And we hope to garner that same kind of energy as we move to the next step with like film festivals and distribution. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, is there any advice that you can give someone who may be watching that may want to get into acting or want to get into the entertainment business?
Man, that question can take an hour to answer. I know we don't have that.
Yeah, we definitely do not, but
I know we don't, but I would say in this moment in season that I'm in life right now, I would say the most pivotal, and it will change. So if you ask me this question 2 months from now, it'd be a different answer. But right now in this season of life, I would say have a very, very, very healthy relationship with yourself as it relates to your identity and as it relates to rejection. I mean, this is a business that is filled with rejection. And people say it all the time, but it's so true. Like you're going to hear so many no's, and a lot of times you don't hear nothing, which is also a no most times. And you cannot let that beat you down. I've been there. I've been on the verge of quitting multiple times and trying to find something else to do and all that stuff because it's just a hard business. But if it's something that you think you have a passion for or that you would enjoy, explore it. Do community theater, do student films, test out the waters to see if it's something that you would like. And if it is, keep pursuing it. But I would say you definitely have to have you have to have really good mental health. I would say it don't got to be perfect because it's never going to be perfect, but you have to have really good mental health going into it. That would be the biggest thing because, again, it's a business that if you don't have good mental health and healthy, safe community around you where you can like live life outside of the grind, it'll eat you up, man. It'll eat you up. It's worth it. Not the, bad stuff, but like when you're on the other side of a lot of those challenging things, it is one of the most amazing feelings ever. So yeah. That's what I would say in this moment right now.
Got you. Well, thank you so much for that. We definitely appreciate it. And I'm sure that those who are watching, they will appreciate it as well. Now, if people want to follow your journey or they want to see more of your work, how can they do so?
Yeah, so I have social media. I want to eventually transition only to YouTube because I just want to be a YouTuber. But I have Instagram, I have X, YouTube, Facebook, and all of that is Frank Oakley III. I also have my website, which is frankoakley3rd.com. But I would say my main things to check out when you're on those platforms is my I'm Gonna Be Frank series. That's where I'm just, I sit down in front of a camera and I just talk about my different experiences or things I've learned in life. That's that series is where you see the most authentic version of myself, just in real time, trying to learn how to, not bump my head so much in life. So yeah.
Got you. Well, Frank, thank you so much for that. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today. We definitely appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
No problem. All right, everyone. I am Carlton T. Clay. This is Celebrate Black Excellence, where we celebrate Black excellence every day. Have a good one.